All right, hello and welcome back to today's episode of YYC Business Speaks. We are here with Cyril Wong from Net Butlers. Hey Cyril, how are ya?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show, Julia.
Yeah, of course. This is awesome. I like your little black and white effect over there on your screen.
Thank you.
Is
Had
that
to
like,
stand out somehow on like big ass Zoom gatherings and stuff, right?
yeah, no kidding. Is that like a Zoom effect or like, did you just create that yourself?
I use a technology called OBS. It's usually used for streamers, and I was like, hey, why don't we use this over in the business world? Like, we should really. I hated the fuzzy backgrounds and like the Zoom virtual backgrounds, and like people would go to like show stuff, and then like it just disappear because like it'd think it was part of the background. So I got frustrated with that sort of thing, and I figured like I could do a little bit better, and so yeah, I like the overlay thing. So like I can you know
Yeah,
have QR codes, send people off site and get them to use their phones. I thought it'd be a more interactive way of
yeah, no
like
kidding.
being on Zoom.
And it makes you look quite fancy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I dig it. You
Thank
cool
you.
to
Thank
just
you.
jump right into the interview?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Can you tell me about your business?
So my company's name is Net Butlers. I've been building websites for 25 years. We specialize in content for creative problem solvers. What I found was a big challenge in the world was that people, let's use accountants for example. Accountants actually are creative problem solvers because they find out about your business or they find out about your personal life, and they have to like dissect a whole bunch of things like variables that are important to you, as well as navigate their own systems. And those things are very hard to explain, right? So like most people are just like, oh yeah, this person just waves a magic wand and it fixes the thing, right? But that doesn't help us to communicate our value. So I found that I, my company is focused around creating that kind of value so that people can have better conversations. I want to make sure that customers of those clients are able to understand what value they're getting, and also I want to tell the story of the client's point of view, what their experience was with the vendor. So yeah, I try to bridge that gap through creating great content that you can utilize on the website, which can also double as sales material.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so usually most of us who start businesses, we start it because we see some sort of like gap in the industry or
Mm.
some sort of gap in a product or service that we use. And we're like, we can improve on this somehow. So based on what you just said, like what had you come to starting your business and building websites and creating or closing that gap?
Ah, okay. The very first instance that sparked the conversation was I went to go see my business coach at the time, and this was in 2013. And I walked into his office, and he had his head in his hands, just kind of like,
Hmm.
and I'm like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "You guys." I'm like, what does that even mean? He's like, well, you web developers. I didn't know I was supposed to ask for this thing, and now I'm being charged $40,000 to get what I want. And I was like, well, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And he said, like, well, if you can find a way to like fix something like that, like I'd be your first customer. And kind of got me thinking, like, what really was the problem, right? And what I realized was that there's always this communication challenge. There's always a communication challenge of some sort. And like, you can't ask for your unknown unknowns, right? So like asking someone to be a technologist and to know how to service something like this. And this is back in 2013. Like, like, yeah, the internet's been around for a while, but I have no expectation that any business owner has any technical acumen on
Yeah,
like how to run an e-commerce store, which is still like, a black box for a lot of people today.
totally.
So yeah, my initial reaction was like, well, what does that look like? Well, maybe you need somebody to like really bridge those conversations. So I was thinking more like a consultant role. And but I really want to bring along the idea of like, well, if it's kind of like having a digital property. Like your website is a digital property, your social media is a digital property.
Mhm.
And like I think of it like a house. I was like, well, who services a house? And the first thought I had, because I'm a comic book nerd, is like I love Alfred from Batman.
Right.
Because Alfred is like, he does everything without ever saying a thing, right? Like everything's handled. If Bruce Wayne needs something, he goes to Alfred. He just tells Alfred. Alfred has it handled. And I imagined like a butler for your digital property. And so like, yeah, like it's somebody that you just trust, that has your best interests in mind, and you bring them in house, but they're not actually you, right? And so it was somebody that you would bring in. So yeah, I kind of started that way.
Yeah, I like that. That's such a cool concept, and like how you created Net Butlers. I actually had no idea why you named it that until just now, and now my mind's like,
Oh, oh,
whoa,
hey,
that's
hold on,
cool.
hold on. I want to do this because like it's part of the thing I do. I am your net butler. So like part of my shtick is actually that I become the net butler, and I really want to help people represent their brands and like tell the brand story. And so yeah, yeah, it's really important that I feel people can have those conversations, because I feel that every business is built on like on a beating heart, and it comes from their values and principles, right?
Yeah,
And so like I wanted people to be able to tell those stories, because that's how your products actually relate to you, or that's how you do business. Like if you're about integrity, in my case, it's very much about like telling brand stories, and like like getting people to ask about who you are, what you do, why is it, how did you come to be, right? Like why the mustache, why Butler, right? And so, like
yeah,
I wanted to create that kind of fun conversation, so people became engaged with like, well, who am I doing business with?
yeah. So you get to exercise your creativity, and you get to help your clients exercise their creativity as well.
Exactly. Yeah, like because like you have people that are like highly analytical, right? You have people that are very, very creative. You have people that are all heart,
Yeah,
like, and those are the key values that you're really looking for, especially when you're looking for creative problem solvers. A lot of times you have complex uh, problems. Like lawyers are like this, accountants are like this, project managers are like this, and you want to know what they bring to the table, right? Based on
yeah,
their personality. And so, like, I find it really interesting to be part of that storytelling journey.
yeah. That's good. That sounds like a lot of fun what you do.
Yeah, yeah. I really like learning about other people's businesses. So, like, I'm in the right place, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so when you started your business, what did you think being successful at it was going to look like?
Oh, that was weird. That's a great question. Successful, huh? My my original, I know that my original like business plan was way different. I had this idea that like people were just gonna buy like bulk hours of my time, and I just show up and like like be like a genie, be like, oh, what is your wish, and like do the thing and then be out of there, right? And I had this very, very optimistic view of like how I was going to get there. How I was going to get there. Um, I guess like what success looked like at the time was I you know what? I probably thought that just being full on hours was success. And
Mm,
the further and further I get in, I'm like, the further and further I want to have like more hours to myself and not be working. So like that view has changed significantly.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I get that too, for sure. I'm just reflecting on my own journey like a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like me too.
Yeah, if I got 60 hours of work at like, $50 an hour, I'm all set. I'm going to be a
Exactly,
millionaire in
right?
5 years. No problem. Yeah, it
No
doesn't
kidding.
actually look like that.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So what does it actually look like now for you?
Well, honestly, it's engaging coaches. It's actually not looking for customers, but looking for referral network partners, or referral partners. It's about building relationships. It's all about building relationships, showing up. A large part of my thing has been showing up for my community. So you can see in my branding here, like I have some stuff about BNI, which is Business Network International, and
Mhm.
I joined them because like so their philosophy is givers gain. Okay, the more you give, the more you're going to get, and in this case, it's passing referrals. And I when I first joined first checked out one of their chapters, everyone gets together, everyone has 30 seconds to talk about what it is they do. It's like a quick elevator pitch, and then afterwards it's just networking. So like you guys hang out, you talk about like what it is you do, you try to like find like-minded people and that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, this is great, because like this is a great platform for me to socialize, and like I can get instant feedback. So like say when I first joined BNI back in 2019, I said I was telling people, hey, I do websites, and like people are like, oh, does that mean SEO? And I was like, hey, I keep getting that question, so how do I answer that? And like, or
Mhm.
like some people would be like, oh, how do you differ from this person? I'm like, oh, that's a great question. And it helped me to measure. It helped me to measure like 100 times before like I would make a cut, to make sure that like I was presenting myself well to the people that were around me. It also helped me to understand like which like people would come to me with referrals and tell me that like, oh, is this a good referral? I'm like, no, it is. Or, oh, actually, I never thought about those kind of people as my referrals, right? And so it helped me to really boil that down. And yeah, business looks a lot more like um, showing up for your community. So like a
Mhm.
great example is like if you're walking around your house and like let's say you have a big family dinner, right? And everyone's doing their thing. Um, People will tell you what you can do for them. It's like if you walk and be like, "Hey, how can I help?" and they don't know what you do, they'll be like, "Oh, can you just like set the table, or can you do this, or can you do that, or can you ask somebody to help you with that?" And yeah, I feel like business is like that. So like instead of like me guessing, right? Like who's going to be receptive and hope that it comes back to me, I have
Yeah.
this instant feedback loop where people are like, "Hey, this is how you can show up for my business. I have actually 10 other people lined up with this exact same need. So if you can solve this, we can actually have a really great conversation." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like how can I present those ideas? How can I really appeal to this community? Tell me like what's important to you guys, you know?" So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool way to relate to it in terms of like being at a family gathering. And I think you said that you've been in BNI now a few years,
Mhm.
right? So I'm just curious, cultivating, like you didn't start out that way, I would assert, right? When you first went to your first BNI meeting, you didn't start out with like, oh, I'm gonna do
Oh,
this referrals and givers gain and da da da. So like what did it take for you to go from there to here now?
I was a bit of a keener, and I had some really great people step into my life. Our group, in particular, so I'm part of the chapter that I'm part of is a lunch hour chapter on Wednesdays. It's called BNI Integrity, and the people that I met there were just fantastic. They stepped in. They actually took a real interest in like who I was and like what I was doing and like where I was in the business journey. Like as an entrepreneur and like what ideas I'd have and those sorts of things. And yeah, so like I had a lot of guidance early on, which I really appreciated. I think like when I came in, like I first had this idea like I was just gonna sell everyone, right? And
Yeah,
that's not how you make relationships, right? That's how
no,
you scare everybody away, and nobody's
exactly.
interested in that. So I learned that very quickly, and now it's like, yeah, it's about showing up, being a part of the community, being a part of the fabric, and people recognize you on your merits, right? Like how you speak, how you show up for them, how you're a great friend. Those are the people that like those actions speak louder than words, right? And so like you can show up and like talk about your business, or you could use your business to like show up for everybody else. And yeah, I think the latter is far more true today. I joined the regional team. I share a lot of my insight, and like I drive initiatives to make sure that everyone's winning. So yeah, like those things I feel have immense value because like I'm able to show up for the community. Yeah, so like very different than like, hey, like I need a sale, and like, hey, I do websites, that sort of thing. Yeah, like when I first showed up, I was literally saying, hi, I build WordPress websites, like they're about $2,500, I'll tell you blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
Whereas today I'm like, no, I show up for creative professionals that have these challenges with communicating with their clients. We build case studies, we build testimonials to really help you communicate your value, and so people can really resonate with how you do business, right? And that's it's a much better conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think building relationships, surrounding yourself in community, um, and like creating that is not just a good business principle, but also a life principle, right?
Hmm.
Whereas when you show up with your friends or with your family, instead of like, hey, what can I get from this group of people? It's like, how can I contribute and how can we mutually like support each other and what we're up to in life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Uh this journey has really inspired me to do a whole bunch of different things. We started a podcast called What is the Work? And and it's because like I started hanging out with this guy named Alec Hochhausen with Astronomic Audio, and he builds podcasts, and he's gotten podcasts to tops of the charts of Apple and stuff. And I just really appreciated the way this guy was doing business. And one day, like I was really contemplating what really mattered to me, right? And this was like a existential kind of like conversation with myself where I was like, you know what? Like at the end of the day, the only thing I really want to do is go like cuddle with my son, or like, like spend time with
Oh,
my wife, and you know, and that's it. Like really, like at the end of the day, like that's what makes me happy. Every moment that I'm like not at my desk, actually thinking about work, actually like trying to plan a future or something, I'm just like, no, I just want to go hug and, be present. And that really set the tone for everything I wanted to do. I was just like, no, like I need to back off. I need to like take my foot off the pedal, and I need to do less so I can have more here, right? Because
yeah.
all we really have is focus, right? And so when you're trying to build that lifestyle, it actually, instead of like my business, which had ballooned into all of my personal life, right? Like I would be taking calls in the middle of dinner, or like working till like even 6 a.m. in the morning trying to hit deadlines and stuff, right? Which isn't fair to myself, and it isn't fair to my family. And like I'm still struggling with this thing. But what I realized was I really wanted to back that off, and like to live like a life that aligned with that meant that I need to compress that into only the 8 hours that I had a day, or like whatever I wanted to dedicate to the endeavor,
Yeah.
which probed the question, what is the work, right? You show up and you only have so much time to do your stuff. If you have 4 hours to get your workday done, what can you get done? Which ones are the ones that actually matter, that are going to allow you to live that best life? And so yeah, I felt that in that moment, that I wasn't the only one that was struggling with this conversation with themselves. And one of the things I recognized within our environment, especially just post COVID, how many people, I'm sorry, my dog just got home. He's a bit of a loose cannon, so
That's
we're probably
awesome.
going to see him. Um, but yeah, like what I found was that like post COVID, like how many people were dealing with things that they were just shouldering. Entrepreneurs have it hard, like really hard, because like we are alone, we are leaders, we are constant builders, we are constantly pushing frontiers, and you can't show weakness, not because like it's not that you can't show weakness, but like you have to show strength all the time. You have to show commitment, you have to show that tenacity, that endurance, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I felt like we needed a space to like really decompress or be real about our situations, because it's hard, right? We need to be able to say, to ask for help and be like, hey, like over here, this guy's drowning. Does anybody have like a lifeline that can reach him? It's like plenty of people in the room can,
Yeah.
or they have a resource, or they have a thing. And so yeah, it was inspired out of creating the space for something like that we started the podcast, What is the Work?
Mm.
But yeah, there's other examples that I can't think of right now, but yeah, a lot of it's been, how do we open space so that we can actually, I love what you're doing. I was just saying prior to us getting on the show that like I love what you're doing, because this is what I wanted to do. I just never found the time to do it. But yeah, these video interviews where you're actually creating visibility for people's businesses, I find just what a great stage to and to guide people through sharing about their business, because how often are they given the stage to actually do that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, things like this, such great service to your community, and like thank you, right?
Yeah. Thanks.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that
I
answers the question. Like I get
no,
long-winded.
it totally
Everyone does
does.
this.
And I like how, like, that's some real talk right there, right? Where it's like you have this existential crisis. What do you want to do with your time? How do you want
Yeah.
to spend your time? And it's so true how many entrepreneurs deal with like that being alone, right?
Hmm.
Or that feeling of being alone, because they're out creating something. And oftentimes their families don't understand, their friends don't understand, even though
Mm.
they try and understand. But if they're not in the world of it, then you don't really get it. And I know one of my clients, she says to me often, she's like, my employees think I'm just over here like screwing around and like not working, and I'm putting them to work to do what they need to do in terms of prospecting or whatever. Or she's like, or my friends are like, oh, you're so lucky, you're an entrepreneur, you get to set your own hours. And she's
Yeah.
like, no, you don't see the kind of shit I've put into that, like, to make this work. Like,
Oh
she's
yeah.
scaling to $1 million business this year, but the past 6 years that it took her to get to this point, people just see $1 million from this year. And she's like, no, like, you should see the process that I had to go through to get here.
Yeah,
So
success is not built overnight.
exactly.
It doesn't matter if you're a master of your craft.
Yeah.
Becoming a business person is a discipline, and it takes 10,000 hours, if not more, and it is super complex.
Yeah. It is a
Yeah.
freaking learning curve.
Oh yeah, like people go and get their MBAs for this sort of thing, guys. And even if you have your MBA, good luck. Have like having the tenacity, the leadership, the fortitude, the hours, the suffering, the ridicule, all of that, right? Like it takes
Yeah.
every ounce of your being to be like, I kind of want to give up and, take a 40-hour-a-week job that gives me cushy, benefits, and I can turn off when I go home. That's a thing. Like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Thank you. Like, yeah, to like say no to that and take 80 hours, and all of that journey and the loneliness of it and the not always loneliness, but like the challenges of it upon yourself and just be like, yeah, I got this, no problem, guys, and like day in day out and still look like this, like a I really do have a lot of respect for every person that runs their own business, that has made their way through, from bottom up, because like, yeah, there's so much to learn, there's so much perspective. Yeah, so much respect for everyone out there.
Right. Yeah. That's why I love business owners too. Like, it just takes so much, and it's just awesome to watch their journeys.
Yeah,
Okay, they say
totally.
smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So what's one or two mistakes you've made along the way that other business owners can learn from?
Yeah, here's my number one tip. Don't buy everything up front. Cash flow is freaking king. Okay. So like when I was growing up, like you always want the best deal, like my family always
So
get the
Asian.
best deal, right? No, cash flow is king. Like I don't care if that thing is maybe that's $100 a year, but it's $10 a month and you're saving $20. That is not the best deal. Only pay $10 because that's another, 111 $110 sitting in your bank account ready for you to spend on something that's actually worthwhile right now, where you can make real differences. So don't do that. I did all, yeah, like I kind of thought like, oh yeah, I'm going to be at this for 5 years or whatever. I'm going to do these things and I'm going to save myself a bit. No, cash flow is king. Always respect your cash flow first. Make sure that you're staying on top of your numbers. Get coaches. Get freaking coaches, business coaches like Julia here. Talk to her. They have that forms and format and tenacity and energy to pick you up when like things are going sideways, and you need these support lines. Like we've talked about how much this journey is a very solo journey, but you don't have to be alone. There's lots of people out there that really have a passion for what you do, for how you do it, and they're there to support you. Like I couldn't do my business without many people in our chapter, without many people that, like along the way. My favorite, I'm gonna plug my friend Janine Wetstein. She's my bookkeeper with Dynamic Books, dynamicbooks.ca. Check her out. But yeah, she's $50 an hour. If it weren't for her, I would not have my books done. My stuff was so backwards. It took us 6 months together, like regular, once every 2 weeks to get my books set like fixed.
Wow.
And if it weren't, and she got, so Janine actually has a background working with lawyers. She used to be an executive administrator for like an entire team. And yeah, so she set me straight, right? And she's like a mom. She's totally like, she's one of my best friends. I love her so much. And at one point, like it was just, I had to call her. I was just like, hey, is it cool if like you just babysit me? Can I just pay you to babysit me? Like just hold me accountable. Tell me what it is I'm going to do, because I'm not going to do it if I don't. And so before she was giving me homework, and then we, a month would elapse and it's not done. And I was like, this isn't cool. Right. Like I want to get this done. And so now she actually holds me accountable as a virtual assistant also. So yeah, like people like that. I'm ADHD. I have this mind which is always forward moving, and I forget stuff as soon as it like pass, like I walk past it. Or if it's not front of mind, oftentimes my mind will actually emotionally push things out that stress me out. So like bookkeeping and like administrative tasks, I'm just like, no, not as important as like this other thing that's like really like painful to me. Right. Like, so like
Yeah.
I'm looking at this project, I'm like, no, 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 I got to get this done. This person really needs this thing. And then like bookkeeping, I'm like, no, I can like, that's okay. It's on the back burner, but you need all of it done. Right. So
Hmm.
yeah, having somebody hold me accountable has been incredibly important. Yeah, even today, yeah, I've talked to two business coaches that are helping me with two completely different aspects of my business. So yeah, if you guys are out there planning on doing the entrepreneurial route, make sure that A, check out BNI because you're going to be surrounded by other business owners. B, find those people. Like find all those people that are trying to help you succeed. There's plenty of them out there. Yes, you do have the vet for them, but yeah, don't do it alone. There's no point. Like just like Julia had structured the question, like yeah, the wise people actually learn from other people's mistakes. Do it this way. It's way faster, way better, and you'll get there faster without spending as much money, effort, resources, time, focus, and you'll have less heartache. You'll have less stress. Like yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, since you plugged Janine was actually on the last episode. So I'll put the link
Yeah.
down below if you want to check her out. Feel free to go watch that episode as well.
Yeah, she has the best smile. Oh, I love her hugs too. She's such a sweet woman. Yeah.
So funny. Okay, Cyril, where can people find you?
You can find us on Instagram. It's at NetButlers Inc. We're presently working on our 10K strategy. So if you guys are looking to grow your Instagram, learn from our mistakes. We're actually doing everything we can to try to get to 10K right now. So that's a great place to find us. You can find me at netbutlers.com or join us on Wednesdays at our BNI integrity meetings. It's at 11:30 Mountain Standard Time. Yeah, I think that's it really. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, if
Oh,
you want
actually,
to come join,
you can use this QR code, by the way, guys. This will take you to my calendar, and you can book time with me. And I do free consultations. I usually like to find about people's businesses. My first meeting is always I need to answer who you are, what you do, who is it you serve, what is it, what is the pain of the people you serve, and how do you do that? And I make sure that I understand it, and I make sure that my the person that I'm sitting across from understands it. And yeah, it's a fun conversation. It's a great exercise.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, even for business owners in general, having that clarity around who you serve and what you do and all that stuff would be a useful conversation in
Hmm.
itself.
Well,
So
I found that if you can solidify your elevator pitch in those 5 questions, and I actually like train people with this, everything that comes after is legit, right? Like you want to talk about a service, they already know what it is you do. You want to talk about how you show up for that community, yeah, they know who you're serving, right? And so like everything becomes relevant at that point. But yeah, always preface like I learned this in presentations. Tell people what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you're going to tell them, and then go back and like go back over the things that you told them. So
right,
yeah, yeah, it's the best way to start.
that's awesome. Okay, one last question for you. Tell me what's most inspiring to you today.
Inspiring. What makes me tick? Watching other people kick ass. Like honestly, I love seeing how far people run with like give
Mm,
them an inch and they take a mile. Oh, love that. Um, if you look around you and just appreciate like other people's journeys. I think too many people, especially the ones that stand out, they're running so fast that no one can catch them. My wife says this to me. I was like, honey, why don't you ever slow me down? She's like, because I can never catch up to you, right? And
yeah,
like oftentimes I think like seeing those people that are really sprinting out there and just telling them like, hey man, I see you, keep it up, like I find that really inspiring. So yeah.
yeah. Even the little bits of encouragement, even
Oh
when you don't
yeah.
think it's going to make a difference, like what a difference it makes.
Well, like, the people that are like on the frontier, there's no one else there, and it's hard to like get, you know, not many people understand. A lot of people are like, oh, that's weird, or like, why would you do that? And yeah, those people need a good pat on the back. I mean, like, yo, frontiersmen, thank you. You're pioneering the way. Do
Totally.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Cool. That's all we got today. Thank you, Cyril, for coming on the show. This was awesome. Such a great discussion. So full of so much gold to extract from it.
Thank you for having me here, Julia. This is fantastic. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to check out Cyril, Instagram, Net Butlers Inc., you can book a one-to-one with him on that QR code, or come check out the BNI Integrity Wednesdays 11:30. You can either reach out to me to join that or reach out to Cyril.
Yeah.
And with that, that is all we got. Thanks, guys, for watching today's episode. If you like this episode and you want to see more of this, feel free to hit the subscribe or share on Facebook. And we'll see you later.